Okay, so shalom, welcome. I'm Sheva Chaya, and I'm going to share with you some thoughts for these times, a bit connected to the parshas of these times and the times in general. So just to give you a little update on the vibe here at the moment, there's such a big mixture of things going on right now, literally just in the area around my house right here in Sfat. So I live in Sfat, Israel, and there is a wedding a couple of doors down, people singing. A couple of hours ago, we all received the message that they're tightening restrictions because there's more spreading of the virus. There's a lot of mixed feelings. There's a challenge in understanding, what to do with the different feelings going on. And one of the amazing things about emotions is that more than one can happen at a time. So what we're going to explore here in this class is really connected to that, and it's connected to these times as well. So this is our second class in a 3-class series, and this is the last class before the beginning of the 3 weeks. Okay, the 3 weeks Bein HaMetzarim, which is known as this time of constriction, of challenge, when the walls of Yerushalayim were breached, leading up to Tisha B'Av, from the 17th of Tammuz to the 9th of Av, the heaviest time of the year, when both temples were destroyed, when the most difficult things in history happened, in these times in general. And yet, these times are also known as the Tisha B'Av, the culminating day, which is really, in a way, the deepest, most difficult day of destruction in our history. That very same day is the day of the birthday of Mashiach, the birthday of all of the hope and of where we need to get to, knowing that we will get there, knowing that we're headed in the right direction and that we're going to get there. So there's a built-in kind of paradoxical experience in these times, to say the least, really, really extreme. And so I named this class specifically. It's really a time of going very deep, and it's also a time of rising very, very high. And it's a paradox, but paradoxical reality is really, the most real in a sense. So we're going to delve into this a little bit in some of the sources, as usual, with a lot of Hasidic sources, and in general, ways to hold on. They say in the Gemara, one of the descriptions of what it's like for a human being to be in this world is that we're connected. We're connected from below to above. Like there's a rope, and one end of it is down here in this world, and one end of it is way up high in a source in Shamayim. And in the end of the days, in the times of Mashiach coming, of everything turning around for the good, which is what we want, is what we've been waiting for, and we're praying for thousands of years, is what we want. Kind of similar to the birth of a child. As beautiful as it is that the child is being born, the actual labor process can be extremely challenging and difficult, and to the point of kind of not even knowing how we're going to get there. And yet we do get there. And remembering that we're going to get there is described in this analogy as being able to hold on to that rope, even when the rope is it's shaking from above. So when a rope shakes from above and you're holding on to it from below, you have to really hold on tight. So in these times, we need to hold on to this rope. And really, most importantly, we need to hold on to the right things to hold on to. We need to make good decisions, use our free will to connect to the things that are going to help us get through these times in the best of ways, and to help bring the goodness that we're hoping for, bring it down and make it happen sooner than later. So the questions that I'm posing before this class are, what builds us and what lifts us up? Since it's obvious part of our world, experience as a people, and the whole world experience this on some level at this point, is going through unbelievable challenges. We go through challenge again and again and again. We get faced with challenges, which even if, say, we grow from them and it's an amazing experience to grow and we go from level to level, on one hand, on the other hand, it's challenging. It's hard. And so then the question, the question could be, you could talk forever about the challenge. But in my mind, the most important question is how to rise up, how to build ourselves, how to lift ourselves up in this time, lift each other up, connect to each other. And thankfully, and incredibly, amazingly, our tradition gives us this. Our tradition is rich, incredibly rich, layer after layer after layer, safer after safer after safer, unbelievable wealth of material that is it's uplifting, and it's helping us put our mind and our heart set in the right direction to where we really need to go, even in the face of all of these incredible, unbelievably incredible challenges. So let's do it. So that's what we're here for, and that's what we're going to do. So we'll do it, and God willing, like Rabbi Nachman says, we'll do it b'simcha, and we'll keep moving in the direction with joy, and keep moving in the direction of unity, even in the face of things looking like they're falling apart, to build unity and build connection and togetherness and finding the good in ourselves and each other, living a life of respect for ourselves and for each other so that we can continue to lift up all the way through it and hold on to that rope and get all the way through it. So God willing, that's the goal. So let's start going into the sources. We're going to start with some of the teachings of Rabbi Nachman and Reb Nassan. So Rabbi Nachman's main Sefer Likutei Moharan was expounded upon by the teachings of Reb Nassan, his main student, his not only student but scribe, who in his merit we are able to learn the teachings of Rabbi Nachman because he wrote everything down. And not only did he write everything down, but he also gave his unique inspiration teaching based on these teachings of Rabbi Nachman, right? So the Likutei Moharan is the base source, and then Likutei Halachot, Reb Nassan would take these teachings, he would take a halacha or something connected to the teaching that Rabbi Nachman gave, and then keep going on it. So we're going to read a little bit inside. We're actually going to jump back. So now we're all together in the same parsha. We went into Parshat Pinchas, and we'll get there pretty soon. But I found this beautiful piece last week in Parshat Balak that I want to share, coming from Likutei Halachot. So as we know, in the story of the Parshat Balak, there was this very strong prophet from the nations who wanted to curse Israel. He was given the job by a powerful king to go and curse Israel. And he went on this journey, and the journey brought him... You okay? I'm using... Sorry, after. So on this journey, he was brought to the place where he came to... His goal was to curse Israel. And when he opened his mouth to curse Israel, what came out? Blessings. All right, so unbelievable turn of events, which seems to happen every time, which is totally awesome. And part of what the limud, what we can learn from this experience, is a little bit of an insight into the authentic reality of the universe, the Jewish people, the way that we act. So we're not perfect, right? We're not there yet. We're working on it. But as long as we're not perfect, so a lot of times we really focus on our faults. But really, we have incredible attributes that are really valuable, and they keep coming up again and again, and they always will, all the way through, and they'll keep pulling us through, even if it feels like it's a tiny little thread. But one of those attributes is that the way that we really actually have built into our nature from our spiritual sources teaching us, and our very strong connection to our Creator from the beginning, teaching us always to really have respect. Have the right kind of respect. Have respect for ourselves and have respect for each other. Have respect for humanity, have respect for the world, have respect for reality, which is relatively unique. It's not always happening in the world. But with the Jewish people, there's a constant limud, an ongoing training to be respectful, to have have rahmanis, have compassion on other people. So sometimes people are not perfect, and we learn to forgive them. Sometimes we aren't perfect, a lot of the time, and we learn to forgive ourselves. So these are very high-level character traits which we're blessed with because we're trained to learn how to be like this. A very straightforward example being giving tzedakah. So giving is not necessarily a human, natural way of being. But we learn by doing it to be more giving. When we give, we learn to love who we give to. And by doing that, the love builds on, and we learn to give more. And this is part of our tradition. If it wasn't part of our tradition, and we weren't practicing it all the time, we probably wouldn't be such givers. But we are, because we've been learning it for thousands of years and doing it. Not only thinking about it as like a academic study, as a good idea, of a good thing to do, but actually doing it, reaching our hand into our pocket, going into our bank account, taking money out of it and giving it to somebody else, and learning how to be a giver. So one of the attributes is connected to tzniut, is connected to really respecting the other. And the way that we would set up our camp, the tents, the doors of the tents would not face each other directly. So a door of a tent would have privacy, right? So no two doors would face exactly each other. And there's even a halacha in this sense that we're really not supposed to have windows facing directly each other or doors facing each other. So that's what this piece is based on. And it's showing us, once again, from my underlying question for this class, what builds us, what is bringing us to a place of where we really should be. So this innate, built, learned respect that we have is a really important factor. So we'll go inside. So it says here in the Pasuk, V'yar et Yisrael shochen lishvatav. So the way, this is about how the encampment was set up, that the tents were not facing, the doors of the tents were not facing each other. Each person gave each other their own space and respect. Perish Rashi, Ra'a she'ein patchehen mechuvanim ze keneged ze, ala b'libo shelo leklalam ki Bilam ratza lahachnis behem ayin ra'a chas v'shalom ki Bilam keneged tikun tefillah dekadusha kamo shamru otenu zal apasuk v'yomer Moav el ziknei Midyan. So Bilam wanted to curse the Jewish people, and he looked at the encampment, and he saw that the doors of the tents were not facing each other. And even though he wanted to curse us, he saw that, and he couldn't curse us because he saw the formation of the tents where we gave each other respect from each other. Manhigim shel elu Midyan nit gadel v'chuli amru ein kocho ele b'pei. Af anu navo aleihem ba'adam shekocho b'pei. Ki ra'a hatzlachat Yisrael rak al yadei tefillah shel כל תיקונם על ידי אמת, ורצה להביא את בלעם שכל כוחו להפך הוא בפה, שהיו מסתכל תמיד בעין רעה, על כל אחד למצוא לו מום וחסרון, והיה גומר בפיו טמא לרעה, עד שהיה לו כוח לקלל, לחזיק חס ושלום. So Balaam's plan was to curse the Jewish people with his mouth. And they said the greatest strength is with the mouth. And this is something that we really need to contemplate and really accept about reality, that how powerful speech is. What we say, what we think even already, going back, but when it comes all the way to actually bringing it to a level of speech is very powerful, and Bilam knew this as a spiritual truth, an underlying truth, and he wanted to use his mouth, his words, to curse Israel, knowing that was such a great strength, and his way of looking at the world was with an ayin hara, with looking at the world with a negative perspective. Aval kasher ra'a she'en pitchei Yisrael mechuvanim ze keneged ze, ala b'libo shelo leklalam, ki ze yadua she'ikar achizat hasitra acha shehu machloket hasitra achra hu mimachloket sheben Yisrael batzman. Very, very important point. It says he came to curse the Jewish people, and he looked and he saw the tents where the doors were not facing each other, they weren't open to each other. And he realized, I don't want to curse them. It says specifically, it rose in his heart. He didn't want to curse them anymore. Because it's an understood spiritual truth that the Sitra Achra, the other side, the side of negativity in the world, which is all about fighting and finding things to disagree upon and breaking down, disintegration all of the time, It's completely built on us being not united, us being in machloket with each other, us fighting with each other. And he looked at us and he saw, well, we give each other space, we respect each other. So he didn't want to curse us because he saw the whole basis of being able to curse us would be that, we're curseable. We're already breaking ourselves down by fighting with each other. כשיש חס ושלום ביניהם מחלוקת, ומסתכל כל אחד על חברו לרעה מחמת האמת שלו. כי כפי דעתו אין טוב בעיניו האמת של חברו. The problem that sometimes occurs, it should never occur again between any of us, is that sometimes every person looks at other people and thinks that their truth is better than the other person's truth. And they think that the other person is, you take it even further, that the other person it's negative, the way that they look at things. They think, I must be better, right? This is like an underlying human aspect. And that his truth is, that a person thinks, my truth is better than that person's truth. שעל ידי זה כל ריבוי מחלקות שבעולם, ומשם אחיזת הסדרה אחרא להכניס עין רע ולהזיק. This is the underlying reason why the other side, the side of negativity, can come in and have any force in this world, is that we make a space for it by breaking our unity, by thinking things like this, like I'm better than that person, and being judgmental, and putting our truth, as if it's more valuable than somebody else's truth. חס ושלום. וזה בחינת מה שאמרו רבותינו ז"ל, לעשות חלון או פתח כנגד חלונו או פתחו של חברו, כי האמת הפשוט של רוב בני אדם אינו ברור וזך עדיין כל כך, עד שיהיה מאיר בעצמו, רק שהוא בבחינת חלון ופתח שדרך שם נכנס האור. So now it's getting deep. So this is really like Rabbi Nachman, Reb Nassim, like taking it to a much deeper level. We have this halacha that your door and windows aren't really supposed to face each other directly. So there's the simple level, the surface level, okay, the way I build my house, where the doors are and where the windows are. But really there's something deeper going on. This says really the truth, the actual deeper truth of every single person is that a person might not actually quite be totally clear with themselves what their truth is yet. That we're really, to be honest with ourselves, we're actually on a journey. And we're trying to find our truth. And in order to really get our truth, we need these openings. We need our windows. We need a place where we can come to understand our truth. And it's like a very private thing. Like every single person needs to come to that place in their own way, with their own window, so to say. רק שהוא בבחינת חלון ופתח שדרך שם נכנס האור. This is where the light comes in. אבל אסור להסתכל על ידי החלון שלו, שהוא בחינת האמת שלו, בחלון של חברו, שהוא בחינת האמת של חברו, כי יכולים לבוא על ידי זה לידי מחלוקת. So we're not really allowed to look into each other's windows. It's even a halacha if you're walking down the street and, beautiful houses, whatever, you're not really supposed to look in the windows of other houses as we walk down the street. So, okay, there's a simple level, having respect for other people, being polite, fine. But there's this deeper level that's much, much deeper, actually, that the Reb Nassim here is saying the window of a person is their window to their truth. It's not just a window for light to come in from the sun into their house, that they have some light in their room. It's actually their truth as a person on a deeper level. Who they really are, what they really understand is their truth in the world. And if someone else looks into someone else's window, this is a very specific person's window, their truth is coming, the light of their truth is coming on that window. If a different person looks into that window, this is the place where machloka can start. This is the place where things can break apart, because really, it has nothing to do with someone from outside looking in that person's window. It's specific to that person, right? Shemisham kol ha'hezchat she'ba'olam rachamanu litzlan. This is where all of the kind of breaking and the beginning of machloket, of what really breaks everything down. This is where it starts. V'alkein al yedei shera'a she'en pitchehem mechuvanim ze keneged ze ve'en mistakel kol echad be'emet shel chavero ve'en lo ayin ra'a b'chavero al yedei ze lo haya lo koach leklalam ki nitbatel achizato. So he came along to curse the Jewish people, and he looked and he saw their windows aren't facing each other. They're not looking into each other's windows and doors. So there was no space for him to curse us, because by not looking into each other's windows, we weren't opening that place of looking at someone else and saying, "Whoa, I'm better than them. Well, their truth is just that, whatever." Like a person looking at through someone else's light, the way that they see truth, it has nothing to do with them. So they see something wrong with it. That's just the nature of a human being. So because by the nature of the way that we set up our encampment, that the doors were not facing each other and the windows were not facing each other, and we gave each other that space and that respect, there was no space to curse us. There was a unity there. V'alken nitafech livracha ve'amar ma tovu alecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. And not only was he not able to curse us, he blessed us. It turned it over. The lack of space for a curse made it so a blessing came down. And very specifically, this blessing saying, "How beautiful are your tents, Yaakov, and your encampments, Yisrael." Uferosh Rashi, al shira'a she'en patchei mechuvanin kanal. This is straight up Rashi, the straight up understanding of Rashi's commentary. Rashi Kodesh, one of the most basic commentaries on the Torah. This is what Rashi says. Why was he not able to curse us? Because we didn't have our windows and doors facing each other. We gave each other that space and that respect for everyone to have their truth be what their truth really is, without interfering and deciding, "Oh, my truth is better than yours." V'zeu shepiresh Rashi sham devar acher ma tavu alecha o shilo v'chule uveit olamim shehu b'chinat beit atfila kamo shekatuv ki beiti beit tefila yikarei v'chule ki akol echad. So now, I've mentioned before when we're learning Rabbi Nachman, whenever you're learning Rabbi Nachman and Reb Nassan, which is the offshoot of Rabbi Nachman, which is even with his own chidushim, so one theme leads to another. So it's an ongoing experience. So if you have an idea, it's like a chain link, right? A link chain. So you have the links and the chains. One idea comes up, and then another one comes up, and then another, and another. And it might seem like, what does one thing have to do with the next? But it always comes back around that everything is connected to each other. So now we're moving on to the next idea. So there's another interpretation of Rashi on this pasuk. Ma tavu alecha, how good are your tents, is referring to Ohel Shiloh. And Ohel Shiloh, this was a place of prayer. This is the Bechina Tefillah. As it says, Ki beiti beit tefillah yikarei. And he's saying, because everything is one, this is all connected. Ki al yedei she'en patchehem mechuvanim ve'em pogmim be'emet al yedei zeh yecholim litpalel. He said, he's taking this to a whole new level, even though it's the same subject. Because their windows and doors weren't facing each other, there was a space there to pray. Right? What is the basic underlying, good situation, good circumstances for a person to pray? A person to pray needs to be happy. If a person's mind is preoccupied with all kinds of issues and fighting with this one about this and that one about that, there's no space to pray. A prayer, there needs to be some space, some shalva and serenity and time and space there to pray. And so he's saying, because we gave each other space physically, therefore there's a space to pray. Shezeu kedushat o halim umishkanot shel Yisrael. This is the holiness of our tents and our encampments. V'yikarhu kedushat beit hamikdash, shesham mitkabtzim kol hashnim 12 shvatim, kol 12 nuschaot התפילה, כי דרך שם מעלה הצדיק שהוא בחינת אבן טוב את כל התפילות של ישראל שהם בבחינת חלון על ידי נקודת האמת שמוצא בתפילה של כל אחד. So this is again another link in the chain. Boom, boom, boom. We're going one step to the next. So we have the doors of the tents giving respect and space to each other, which allows for not only that there couldn't be a curse, but there will be a bracha. And this, taking it further, is a space where there is space to pray, because we have respect for each other, so there's space there for prayer. And prayer is connecting us to the Beit HaMikdash, which is the place of prayer for the whole world. And the Beit HaMikdash is the place where all of the 12 tribes of Israel will come together. And if you think about it, the tribes of Israel, so I don't know who's seeing this class now or who will see it eventually, where you are, but say you're here in Israel, or say that you're in Chutz La'aretz, you're in Canada, you're in America, wherever you might be. So if you could imagine all the 12 tribes of Israel coming together, if you've been in Israel, if you've been around the world and seeing Jews from all over the place, there's so much variety, right? What Jews look like, the language that we use, the way that we pray, the songs that we sing, there's a lot of overlap and there's a lot of variety. And what he's saying here is that there's this space that we're giving by giving each other the respect of not looking into each other's windows and judging this one and that one. Oh, he sings it this way and he sings it that way. No, because we don't do that, there's a space for every single type of song of every tribe to come in. It's specific. It is that. It needs to be a multi-layered type of song. Every single person belongs, they have their own individual song, and every single person that has their tribe that they're a part of, their family and their bigger family of who they're connected to, and that song is very specific to them, and it's very unique compared to the tribe next to them and the other tribe. There's 12 of them. It's a lot of variety there. I mean, it's exponential. There's a lot going on there. And what is a Beis HaMikdash? A Beis HaMikdash is the place that not only can hold all of those different types of song, and does hold it is for all of those different types of song. It's a place for the song of even all of the nations of the world also, right? So taking it to that level, prayer of the whole world, prayer of all the tribes, and he's bringing through here also the level of the tzaddik. The tzaddik is this level of a righteous person who can really be this. He's saying it's a beautiful stone, like a precious stone, which is this, like the tefillah of Israel, like the prayers of Israel, which is like a window, which is opening to the point of truth. So it doesn't say it here, but I was thinking this earlier. I'm pretty sure this is referring to another Torah in Likutei Moharan, which is known as like the Zohar Torah, the Torah about Noach, right? So in the Teva, so Noah built a big ark, as we know, and he built a window in the ark, this special window, which is known as the Zohar. And the Zohar was known as both a window, and it was also like a precious stone shining out. So it was a window that let light in, and it was also like a precious stone that shines light out. Okay, and so Rabbi Nachman and Reb Nassim bring down this beautiful Torah, saying, what is it really? The Teva. So I'm just saying this outside, I didn't even review it or whatever, but like basically the idea being a teva, so the name for an ark in Hebrew is very similar, almost the exact same word as the word for word in Hebrew, right? A teva is a word. And so what does it mean that there's a teva with a window in it? This is also about prayer. This teaching is also about prayer. When a person is in darkness and they don't know what to do, how can they get out? How can they find their way? They need some light, right? And the time of the flood of the world, and you could say, it's not so difficult to say in these times that this is also a time of the world being flooded by many challenges, right? Ongoing challenges. And those floods, it's not so clear when it'll be over or when we'll get out of it and what to do about it and where the opening is. But Rabbi Nachman says in this teaching that when a person makes an effort and cares to try to pray, they're searching and they're seeking, they're saying, where could you be, Hashem, in their heart, and they're trying to get to that place of prayer. By doing that, it brings them to this Zohar, it brings them to this place where they can say a word, a teva, like the teva is the ark. And by saying one true word, this opens everything, right? This is one of our biggest goals. You know, we think very high. We're very like educated, academic, Western thinking people in general, which is pretty awesome in a certain sense, like how developed we can be in our minds and everything. And yet, sometimes simplicity is even more powerful. And the power of realizing that saying one true thing in your whole life, okay, so hopefully every day, but saying one true word is even more powerful than anything we could ever imagine. And he says, by saying one true word, this is like what opens that window, the Zohar in the Teva, which is, it's a word. It's literally, that one word, one true word. We should be zoche to say one true word of tefillah, asking Hashem to bring the refuah to the world. Here we are in the middle of a pandemic. It's not over. We don't know when it's going to be over. Just today, I mentioned at the beginning of the class, we just got a whole big list again of things getting more and more restricted here in Israel at the moment. Hopefully things will get better really soon. But it's a situation. We have to pray. And Hashem seems to be asking us to pray. He seems to want it, right? And in a way, it's so simple. We just need to do it, okay? So, Bezrat Hashem. Shekol ze hefech hakilkul shebal yadei shemistakel echad b'chaviro shehu b'chinat petach neged petach. So all of this is fixing something. We have this situation in the world where people are looking at each other and looking down at each other. They're judging each other. This is the nature of humanity. And we just need to not do that. And this whole thing is a tikkun for that. This is fixing that by giving respect to each other, recognizing maybe my truth is just whatever my truth is, and not even look out at other people and try to judge something about their truth. To just be real about my own. And if we each give ourselves the space to really do that and to look at each other's, give each other the space to have their own truth, then this gives the space for the full tikkun, for everything to come around the way that it needs to. V'alkein shnei hapirushim echad, u'tluim zeh b'zeh, she'al yadei she'ein patcheihem mechuvanim ve'ein pogmim b'ha'emet shehu tikkun ha'tfilah, shezeu b'chinat matavu olecha Yaakov, shehem hadirot v'abatim shel Yisrael, על ידי זה בעצמו מה טבעו עליך ומשכנותיך, שהם בחינת בתי כנסיות ובתי מדרשות של ישראל. ועיקרם שבית המקדש, שהם בתי התפילה של ישראל, שתיקונם על ידי האמת. Okay, so this is leading us towards where we're going to head towards further on in the class, but basically saying here that one thing leads to the next. When one person really gives space to really focus on their own truth, not judging someone else, then there's space for prayer. There's no space for a curse. There's space for bracha. There's space for blessing. Needing to do this for ourselves and for each other. And what's really happening there is really creating a space for truth, for emet. Okay, so we're going to get to that a little bit further in the class. That's the little piece from Balak. So now I want to jump forward to the parsha that we're going into this week, Parshat Pinchas. And I have a teaching, again, I keep sharing this wonderful little sefer, Pri Mayim Chaim, David Hertzberg, one of my teachers from he should have an Aliyat Nishama. I'm really happy to be sharing his teachings with you. I don't know how well known Rav David ever was, but he's a complete genius. One of the people that his genius was on such a level that you didn't even know that he's a genius. But he has such an amazing insight. He has such amazing insights in the way that he gives over his Torah. We'll see. So this is based on the parsha of Pinchas, and as we know, everyone knows the basic story of Pinchas. That Pinchas was he was known as a zealot, meaning he saw a situation that was not appropriate going on in the encampments. And he took a big risk, risking his own life, by putting a stop to it. And by putting a stop to the coming together of a couple that wasn't meant to come together in a way that wasn't meant to happen, he not only made an eternal covenant between himself as a priest and God, but it stopped a big plague. Okay, so it's probably not for no reason that all the parshas that we're reading through during these times when there's a big pandemic plague going through the whole world, the issue of a plague comes up again and again and again, and it's not for no reason. So we're getting little hints into the truth here, into the reality here. Okay, so let's see what Rav David says. He says, ready to risk his life, Pinchas stood up in front of all of Israel and speared Zimri and Cosbi, the head of the tribe of Shimon and a Midianite princess. So Zimri and Cosbi were together inappropriately, and Pinchas stabbed them and killed them both. He was rewarded with a covenant of everlasting priesthood. Our sages explain that Pinchas expected no miracle, and knew that his life was in great danger. Nevertheless, he's ready to throw himself into the fire for the sake of God. Where does Pinchas draw this strength from to face such a great test? With God's help, the name Pinchas will help us understand from whence he derives his unique strength and conviction. According to our sages, when Yitzhak was walking towards the altar and he was to be bound, he was 37 years old. He was fully aware of the fact that he was going to give up his life for God. The exemplifies this idea when it says of Avraham and Yitzchak, they both walked together. Each knew where they were going and what they were going for. So far, Rav David is connecting Pinchas, taking this big stand, putting his life at risk, and basically having a lot of strength to stand up for truth. He's connecting it to Yitzchak, who was, he knew, Yitzchak knew, and also Abraham Avinu knew that they were going to the Akedah, that Abraham was supposed to put up Isaac as a sacrifice. Isaac knew he was a sacrifice. They knew they were headed towards that. So they must have had a lot of strength to keep going and not just turn around and run the other way. Going further into what Rav David says, Yitzchak our father gives each Jew the strength needed to be able to stretch out his neck for God. This is the place, the holy temple, where the high priest offers up our prayers. We can say that Yitzchak empowers all of us, and especially Pinchas, to be ready to give our life for God and become vessels for the blessings of the priests of the holy temple. According to our tradition, the name Pinchas in the opening passage written in the Torah is with a small yud. Okay, so if you spell the name out Pinchas, it has a yud in it, and sometimes the letters written in the Torah, there's a big one or a small one, like an exaggerated tiny one or a big one. So in the name of Pinchas, there's a tiny little yud. The letter yud is like a dot, it's tiny. So it's written like this: Pei, little yud, nun, chet, samech, Pinchas. Okay? This little yud might stand for Yitzchak. Yud is the first letter of Yitzchak also, which gives us strength to reveal that Pintele Yid, the little Jew, Yid, inside of each of us. So a Yid, a Yud, is like a Yid, right? Every Jew is like a little Yud. We're like a little Pintele Yid. We each have a point inside of us that is strong, that's fully connected, and it's connected to Yitzchak, and it's connected to Yaakov, it's connected to Abraham also, but that Yud itself here is saying could be connected to Yitzchak, reminding us, connecting us to that place where we're connected in a very, very powerful place. If we add up the letters of Pinchas with the little Yud, it equals 208. So with Gematria, if you don't know, every single letter in the Hebrew language is connected to a number. So if we add up the letters of Pinchas, it adds up to 208. The very same numerical value as Yitzchak. Okay, so you can check it out. The letters that spell the name Yitzchak and the letters that spell the name Pinchas add up to the exact same number, 208. Yitzchak is ready to give up his life for the sanctification of God's name. He's rewarded with a covenant of the everlasting seed, the children of Israel. So there's this everlasting response to both of them, right? With Yitzchak being willing to give his life to sacrifice himself for God. So from that point, the Jewish people flowed on eternally. There's always going to be Jewish life after Yitzchak because he was able to put himself on that level. Pinchas is ready to give up his life for the sanctification of God's name and is rewarded with the covenant of everlasting priesthood. So when Pinchas stood up also with this great strength to stand up for the holiness of God's name, he also got an everlasting gift and blessing, which is an everlasting priesthood, to always be a Kohen. A lot of times Pinchas is the name of a Kohen. Okay? Each of the threefold blessings of the priest, so now the blessings of the Kohanim, begins with the letter Yud, that very same Yud that Yitzchak instills within us all. So if you think of the blessings that the Kohanim give, it starts with Yud every time. Yivarechecha, right? Hashem Yishmerecha. Yasim. It's all starting with the letter Yud, and this Yud could be reflecting back to Yitzchak, which gives us the strength that's instilled inside of all of us to really connect to this Pintele Yid inside of each of us. Something that is eternal. The little Yid is eternal, both as indestructible people and as a kingdom of priesthood. Yitzchak, the father of the Jew that survives, and Pinchas, the father of the blessing that never ceases. Amen. So, little deepest ever insight from Rav David, right? So we have Pinchas in this situation, and there was an everlasting response to his standing up for the truth, standing up for holiness, to have an everlasting position to be one of the leaders in holiness for the Jewish people, to be a teacher, to be a guide, to be a priest, to be a Kohen. And Yitzchak, the same gematria, very same name, connecting to all of these yuds. Yitzchak, being willing to give his life for the Jewish people, made this eternal connection of us living on forever, for continuously bringing Jews into the world from there on out. So that's a little insight into Pinchas. So far, the ideas that I wanted to share, going back to the initial questions that I brought up in the beginning of the class, in these times of great challenge, what builds us? What makes us strong? Respecting each other, respecting ourselves, seeking truth, standing up for what is true, standing up for what is right, and connecting to that Pintel Yid, connecting to that most true place inside of us it's indestructible. We can't even lose it, but we need to connect to it. We need to make that effort. We need to recognize that it's there inside of us, and we need to make a little effort to find it and know that it's there. And maybe a good little, very simple type of a meditation would be to just meditate on the letter Yud, right? Just to stop and here and there, once a day, once a night, 2 minutes here and there, to stop and close your eyes and just imagine a point, or imagine a dot, or imagine a yud, if you can imagine the shape of the actual letter being written, and all the things that stands for, and how simple that is, and meditating on how really simple it is, and meditating on how there is a point inside of us that's eternally connected and eternally holy. And if we remember that enough, we're not only going to treat ourselves with respect, but we'll treat each other with appropriate respect when we know that. Okay. So we brought up before that that in last week's parsha, when Balaam wanted to curse the Jewish people, it says very specifically there he knew the power of the mouth, of speaking, of speech, and we know that behind speech is breath. You can't talk if you can't breathe, right? So it happened to come up today in the Tanya, the teaching of the Alter Rebbe, that it's speaking about breath, and it seemed very connected to this whole thing. So I wanted to share that as well. So it says Kedichtiv. This is in today's Tanya. It's Igeret Atshuva, chapter 4. Kedichtiv vipach ba'pov nishmat chaim. So I love this pasuk. It comes up all the time with glass blowing, but this is like, we can even leave the glass blowing out. We don't even need it, right? So it says, God infused the soul of life into the body of Adam. How did that happen? It's very specific what it says there. It says he blew into his nostrils life. He blew it. Like, you blow hard. Like, you breathe and you speak. It's not blowing. It's different than blowing. Blowing is like, you really actually blow. Okay? And it says in the Zohar Kodesh, he who blows does so from within him. When a person really blows breath, like you're going to blow up a balloon, you use a breath from really deep inside of you. You have to muster up the strength of that breath from deep inside of your lungs and blow it out. It's different than just a normal breathing or speaking type of breath. Okay? So this is giving us a very important hint into the fact that our soul is very, very connected into the inner place of godliness, because God himself, from his most inner place, blew this breath into us, which is our soul. So, a little bit more here. Okay, so just a little bit of a clarification, still in the same little section of the Tanya. It says that there's a big difference in the case of mortal man between the breath issuing from his mouth while speaking and the breath of forceful blowing, which I already brought up, but this is coming up in the Tanya here. It's a big difference to blow a breath and to just speak. When a person speaks, the breath that is coming out, the life force that's coming out when we breathe, is minimal. And he's saying that this is like on a surface level. Aval b'yotzei b'koach ha'nopeach, the mitocho nafach, but when the breath that issues from he blows forcefully from deep within himself, milavush bo koch v'chiyud penimit, mivachinad nefesh hachaya. When the breath is blown, like it's blown hard, this is coming from the actual life force, from a deeper place, from the actual life force, so it's a very specific difference between these places. So recognizing, when you think about it, the power of speech, the power of words, it's like a bit beyond what we usually realize. It's very, very strong, right? And so when I say something positive and I say something good, I'm bringing good into the world, and that's what I want to do. I want to try to do it. But taking that even deeper, really the life force breath that we have inside of us is coming from an even deeper place. It's blown into us. And it says before in this little part that the breath of a tzaddik comes and he blows on the people. We have like kind of like dust on us, and the dust that's on us gets cleared off. And the dust could be maybe described as these things like that are screens, say, that are blockages that are blocking us from being who we really are and who we really could be. And this coming from this deep place of connecting to who we really are, to our actual just straight up life force, that we're actually just alive from this breath that is strongly blown into us. From there, this kind of surface tiny level, this speech is so powerful. It's just it's the tip of the iceberg. You know, the depth of that, the strength of that is, it's much, much deeper, and it's much, much stronger. So I thought that was pretty cool that came up specifically today in the Tanya. And I mentioned, so I'm just going to say a couple other things. We have a couple more minutes here. There's actually so many more things I wanted to say, so maybe I'll try to throw them in. Okay, yeah, we can keep going. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna like cut it off too quickly. I appreciate your encouragement there. That's good. That's good. Because it's so cool how they all really come together. So there's this piece that I learned a few days ago, 2 Shabbatos ago, with my Chavruta from the Maharal. The Maharal from Prague. So this teaching, in general, when I try to learn the Maharal, I cannot understand what it's talking about most of the time. It's very overwhelmingly beyond me most of the time. But this one, I kind of like grasped it a little bit. I thought it was really awesome, so I wanted to share with you, and it's connected to the things that we've been talking about. So I'm not going to read it inside because it is a little bit complicated, but he says there he's talking about truth. Again, so this is a subject that we brought up before, an important subject. When there's truth, there's space for blessing, and there isn't any space for the opposite of blessing. And so what is truth? So the Maharal starts to break down these words. He said the word truth in Hebrew is emet, right? So if you spell out emet, it's Aleph, Mem, Taf, right? So Aleph is the first letter of the Aleph Bet. Mem is the middle letter. If you count all of the letters, it's the very, very middle letter. And Taf is the very last letter. So Emet is very balanced. It has the beginning, the middle, and the end in the word itself, even though it's just 3 little letters. And the Aleph is described as this, it's very like ethereal. It's like ethereal. It's like this, it's light. It like doesn't really have a sound of its own. And it's the first letter. He says further in the piece that the Taf is the Chotem, that it's like a stamp. So you go through, think about it like you go all the way through the Aleph Bet, like a child who's learning the Aleph Bet, and they sing through the whole song, and they get to the very end, they say the very last letter, it's like, bam, I did it, Taf, it's like the last letter, like, bring it to a conclusion. It's the Chotem, the closure, bring it all together. And the thing about Emet is that it stands. It's very solid. It stands. It has the beginning, middle, and end in it, and it also has the end all wrapped up to in it like a seal. Sheker, on the other hand, which is the word for the opposite of truth, or lies, or falsehood, it's built of completely different letters. If you look at the letter of the word Sheker, the first letter is Shin. Shin stands on one little point, right? 3 little points going up from one. So anything that stands on one point is like, if anyone tries to do yoga and you try to like, balance tree pose or some other type of pose, it's hard to not like tip, right, on one point. So it's falling. The next letter is Kuf, also 1 point down, same thing. The final letter in Sheker is Resh. It also stands on one little tiny point. So Sheker doesn't stand. Sheker, the underlying idea behind this is that these incredible things that we get to learn and the way that we get to live, it's placing us in a realm of truth, and truth stands. Truth will stand. It'll bring us all the way through. We'll understand the truth just more and more as time comes into as we come into the times of more and more truth revealed, and the word itself for truth in Hebrew shows us that it has everything built into it, and the word for falsehood in Hebrew also shows us an example of what it is. It's something that can't stand. It's something that will not last. It falls over. And this, which I brought up in the beginning of the class, this idea of holding onto that rope, if you're holding onto a rope from below and it's held on from up above and it's being shaken and things are crazy, and really, let's face it, let's be realistic for a minute and just say it. These are challenging times where we don't know what's going to be one second to the next. I'm sure some of you guys who are not here in Israel wish that you could just come here. I definitely wish you could just come here. I would even buy you a ticket to come here if I could. I can, the airlines are closing down. Like, what's going on in the world, right? We want this, we want unbelievable things. We don't even know if we can get there because we're going through this unbelievable, crazy time. But the truth is that the truth will stand. And the truth is goodness. This truth that we started from the beginning of this class. There's an underlying truth in the way that we're built as a society, that we respect each other. We don't put our windows facing each other. We recognize that everybody has their own truth. We recognize that we have our own truth, and that we should focus on that. And by focusing on our own truth, we give respect to the other person to also do that for themselves and find their own truth. And in that space that we're creating, which is truth, blessing comes. Okay, and we actually need to be active participants in making the world an environment to receive blessing. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're doing. And it's a relatively simple way to do it. Like, literally, not looking into other people's windows, and figuratively, not looking into other people's business or windows, and letting them be who they are, letting them search for their truth, and us searching for our own truth. This is helping us get closer and closer all the time. Okay. So, a couple more little things. Okay, so we're going to talk a minute about Mashiach. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this class, in the 3 weeks, which is coming up starting this Thursday night. So hopefully we won't have to fast, and hopefully Mashiach is coming so quickly we're not going to have to do it. But in these times, historically, there are times of great, unbelievable challenge and tragedy and persecution and the most difficult of things happen in these times. And there's a question like, why doesn't Hashem just bring Mashiach? Why doesn't Hashem just make it all good? Hashem could do anything. Doesn't he want it to be good? Why doesn't he just make it good? Right? So there's a Torah, and I'm saying this, I wanted to share this because I think it's really good, important preparation for this 3-week period. Again, we're going back to the Likutei Moharan. This is Pei Hey in the second section in the Likutei Tinyana. It's a really short little Torah. It's really beautiful. I'll read a little bit inside, but I might jump outside because we'll get there. So it says here, Eguzim hanikraim luzim hem romzim livchinat Leah shehi be'oref shehi nukba rishona v'achar kach nihasin levet hamikdash shehu bechinat Yaakov kra'o beit el. So we have luz nuts. They're those round little nuts, right? I don't know what you call them in English, but in Hebrew you call them luz nuts. They're a type of nut which luz in Hebrew refers to like mystery, like it's like a mysterious place, which refers to Leah, and Leah is known as the back of the neck, which is the first feminine attribute, and which brings us to the Beit HaMikdash, which is the Bechina of Beit El. Okay, go further. with Rabbi Nachman, like I said, sometimes he throws out the whole chain at once and then he breaks it down as he goes. V'zeu shepeush Rashi, shederech luz nichnasin leveit el. It says, the commentary that Rashi brings there, the way you get into Luz was this like hidden city, right? Somewhere in the center of Israel there was this like hidden city, and the only way you could get into this secretive hidden city was to someone to kind of like give you a hint, like kind of like, you know, nod that way, a little wink in that direction, like nothing too direct, because it's a hidden place. There's no like signs to Luz. It's not on Waze. You have to get there with like a hint type of way. And this place, which is this kind of hidden hint type of place to get into, this is how you get into Beit El, which was the house of God. V'zeu nachamu. So when the 3 weeks come along, I already want to jump to Rosh Hashanah. I already want to jump to Elul and Rosh Hashanah and get into the newness. But really, we can take it back just a tiny bit and go to Nachamu. Like right after all of the destruction and after all of the difficulty that we're going through, we come to a place of comfort. We are comforted, okay? So this is connected to Nachamu. Shtei pamim Nachamu gematria kadkod. Shehu bechinat oref, she'al yada nichnasin leveit el. So, Kabbalistic and whatever, going deep and whatever, but basically, if you take the words Nachamu twice, Nachamu, and do the gematria, this adds up to kadkod, which means like the skull, the head, which is Bechinat Oref, the back of the head, which is connected to the back of the head, this is where you go into Beit El. It's like a secret place. It's not like straight on, it's from around. V'zeh shlosha shvuot. This is the 3 weeks. Shehem esrim ve'echad yom sheben ha'mitzarim. U'kenegdo be'ilan luz. These 3 weeks are 21 days, which are called Ben HaMitzarim, these days of constriction, these times of constriction, which is connected to this tree, this luz nut tree. Bishvil zeh noagim lecho beitza besuda mafseket b'tisha b'av ki beitza nigmeret b'asra echad yom. This is why we have the tradition to eat an egg before the fast day of the 9th of Av, because an egg takes 21 days to mature, like the 21 days of the 3 weeks. Kamamar Chachamim Zerchana Livracha, Tarnugolet Moledet Esrim Vechad Yom. As it says, the Chachamim knew a bird would lay an egg, it would take 21 days to mature to the point of becoming a chick or being edible. Keneged B'ilan Luz, this is like the 21 connected to Luz, this tree. V'zeh be'etzem Luz sheyesh b'oref adam, sheyishar achar kilyon haguf, u'mimenu yichadesh binyan haguf b'shat tchiyat hametim. We also have a luz in ourselves, in our bodies. We have what's called a luz bone. It's like somewhere also in the back of our necks. This is a bone that it never disintegrates. So when a person finishes their time in this world and they leave the world, this one bone is like an eternal bone. That's the bone that we'll all rise from and live our eternal lives afterwards. It's also called a luz bone. This is the essence of our comfort. Ki al haguf ne'amar shochvei ad aboker shehu et hatchiyah. We one of the most challenging, painful, difficult things of being in this world is that it's transitory, right? This is like one of the deepest teachings of Eastern religions, and it comes through also in our religion. One of the pain of this world is that it's transitory. Yes, love is eternal, but it comes and it goes. We lose and we feel it and we suffer from it, and it's transitory. And yet, what is the main essence of our comfort is that we have this one little point in us that is eternal. It's just going to be forever. That forever that we all want, that we all wish everything really could be and is and was, and we believe it should be. We have it in us. We have a little point of that in us that can never be lost. Vihine b'boker. We're waiting for that morning. The morning meaning alluding to the reawakening, the tchiyat hametim of coming to eternal life. Vihine b'boker hine ze leah. Ainu etzem luz hanal she'al yada nit banei haguf bishvil shakol kavanato shel Yaakov haya bishvil Rachel shenemar Bivnei Rachel, Dahinu Yosef. I want to jump to the end here. Shal Yadav V'chinad Leah. Very important stuff. That I'm jumping doesn't mean that it's not. Kalkol Chetev Zeh, B'chinad Luz, Oref Gematria Rosh Tevod, Shabbat Nachamu Remez Anal. So there's a very deep teaching which I can't pretend that I could explain it or understand it or give it over. But it's a very deep teaching in the Zohar HaKodesh, in the deepest spiritual teachings of our tradition, that describes a bird hovering over a nest. There's a place, like in Shemayim, in heaven, where a bird is hovering over a nest. And it's very connected to this teaching that we just touched on a little bit. There's this time period that an egg needs to mature, right? For a mother bird to have an egg and for the egg to come to a point of the little egg becoming a little chick and everything going on to the next level, there needs to be a certain period of time. There needs to be 21 days. And in these very deep spiritual teachings in the Zohar Kodesh, it says that there's this place where this bird it's the bird's nest place in Shemayim, in heaven. And the bird is hovering over its nest. So, like I said before a few minutes ago, why wouldn't Hashem just make everything good? Like, if God is all powerful and could do anything, why wouldn't He just make it all over and good? Why wouldn't it all just be awesome already if He can do that? So, one of the answers is that there's this bird hovering over the nest. Why would a mother bird hover over a nest? Because she's protecting the eggs. The eggs still need to mature. The eggs, they might not be ready yet. And the whole 21-day cycle process of the eggs coming to maturity, of the loose nut coming to maturity, needs to happen. And maybe we're not quite there yet. Maybe we need a few more minutes. Maybe we need one more person that each of us knows needs to step up, and that's the maturity that we're waiting for. Maybe just each of us needs to step up a tiny little bit, and that's the maturity that we're waiting for. But whatever it is, we're still waiting. We're still not there yet. Because when we're there, when it's ready, when the maturity happens, just like an egg comes to maturity from the bird, and it cracks, and it hatches, and it becomes a live bird, a chick, when the time is right, it's going to happen. Nothing's going to stop it. We need to get there, though. So that hovering over the nest, that maturity, so this 3-week period alludes to that. It alludes to the fact that we really are so close. We're closer than we've ever been. Like my uncle used to take me on mountain bike rides. My Uncle Chetty, I doubt he's watching, but hi, Uncle Chetty. I used to go on mountain bike rides like as often as possible with him. It was really one of the great thrills of my teenage life. I loved it. And on all those rides, he would always tell me, sometimes the trails were a little bit tough. He would say, like, we're closer than we've ever been. Like, as you're going along the road, we're on a journey here, and we're heading there. We're closer than we've ever been, always. And for sure that's true now, right? We're getting closer than we've ever been. And that maturity that we're waiting for, it could be just a little bit of yearning. It could be just one more little prayer that each of us says to Hashem, no, I really, really want it to be the best. I want it to be the best for the people that I love. I want it to be the best for my family. I want it to be the best for the whole world. One little thing could tip the balance. And until it happens, there's that hovering, there's that waiting, that maturation period that needs to happen. It needs to happen. So I'm going to finish up this class with one other little piece, again from this awesome book, The Soul of Jerusalem, that Shlomo Katz put out, the teachings of Reb Shlomo connected to Yerushalayim. I'm just going to read one little piece here. I just think it's really beautiful, and it is about yearning. So it's on page 110. I see you have you have Hanukkah. Hanukkah is also good. This one's The Soul of Jerusalem. Okay, so it says on page 110, it says, there are 2 ways of learning something in the deepest depths. Imagine I finally meet my soulmate. It goes fast, and Mazel Tov, 4 weeks later we're married. Does it blow your mind? Now imagine that the same thing happens, but before the marriage we somehow lose track of each other. We mamish can't locate each other. Do you know something? For 2,000 years, I do everything I can to find her. One day, Gewalt, I find her. Do you know how deep this is? Do you think it's the same marriage as the first one? No, it's something else. We love Yerushalayim so much that we've been searching for it for 2,000 years. We love Yerushalayim so much because we've been searching for it for 2,000 years. So, who can say it better than Reb Shlomo? Probably not anyone. I mean, I'm sure there's some really awesome, awesome ways of saying it, but that's that, really where this incredible yearning that we have for things to be the way that we know they can be, that we know that it can be so awesome, that the world was created for something good. So that yearning that we have is actually one of the most important things. That's the whole point. That we're yearning, that yearning is pulling us towards the maturity that we need to get to for things to really come down, for the geula to really come down, for that high level of really respecting each other. Not only that we respect each other and that we don't put our windows facing each other, and we respect our own truth and each other's truth, but that the whole world does that. That our light and our example of doing that not only shines throughout us and that the blessing comes down for us, but then that blessing transfers and translates to the entire world, which is really what we're here for. We're not here for something for ourselves. We're here for something way, way beyond ourselves. So we should be blessed to do it. We should be blessed to really give ourselves and each other the respect that we deserve. We should really keep searching for our truth. And when we feel that yearning and wishing, like Gaval, let it be good already. Let things turn to where they really should be already. So say the words, make it a tefillah. Say, please Hashem, do it. Even a couple words. Even just say the word help. So like Rav Nassan says, just say help. Say one word, think it, and know that it matters and that it could tip the balance. Our time, that period of maturation, of coming around to where the bird hovering over the eggs turns into Mashiach actually being revealed, and the actual birth, the actual coming into who we truly are. We're here. We're so close. We've never been closer, and we're going to get there. And we should see the good in ourselves and each other, God willing, blessing us all to do it. And thank you so much. Thanks for joining the class. Chazak v'ametz. If anyone has any questions, open your mic, feel free, or type in something. Amen. Thank you. Thanks for the brachas. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining. It's really sweet.
I have a question, but I am attempting to make more art, so.
Ooh. So nice.
So.
Yofi. Kol hakavod. That's so beautiful.
Oh, actually, I'll show you on Saturday night. I had Laser Grunwald from Spot was playing with us, so I'm trying.
Nice. Yeah, that's totally laser. Nice. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I would say, like, on that note, so I, in general, I love to learn Torah and share it. I'm really happy you guys are here to share with me and get to do this together. But I'm really like B'ikar, I'm like a visual artist. I like express myself through painting and glass work and different things. So putting things into words is like a different type of level. And the value of even scribbling on a page, not that I'm saying that's like a scribble, Elena, it's beautiful what you did, but like really any attempt at expression, it might like feel like, well, it could be better. Like I could tell you, I don't know how many like tens or hundreds of things I've made where I make it and whatever, thankfully it's nice, people like it or whatever, but I always feel like it could be better. I really do. Like all this whole time, like I don't know, 10,000 things. Like I make it and then I'm like, it could be better. And there's something there there's something so true about that, and that just shows there's still that little place of yearning for things to just be as awesome as they really could be. And what a holy and healthy experience it is to try. To try I'm saying this all to myself, to try to make another painting, try to make another glass piece, try to write something, try to say something, express ourselves. It's really, really holy, beautiful work, and it's really, really beautiful what you did. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you so much. I really relate to your way of giving it away, even if you don't think that even if you think whatever. I just really relate. So
nice.
I appreciate it so much that you keep doing this and that we can get involved with sharing it, and yeah, it's good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah.
Can I ask something about the windows?
Yeah.
Just a thought that came up was right, like not, okay, so we're focusing on our truth versus other people. And then the like little voice is like, well, what about, how do we deal with that in social media and when it's like everywhere? It's just so omnipresent.
It's a
And if
really
you
good
have
question.
any advice.
It's a really, really good question. Wow. It's a really important question, I think.
It's literally like windows.
Yeah, it's true. Like everyone's profile and their page is like this, they're just opening their window of their life to everyone else and letting them look in. It's a really, really good, important point, which it's really important to bring it up. I think, you know, in the end of the day, we all need to take responsibility for ourselves. And so it'll reflect in how we look at other people's, you know, posts or, you know, whatever they're sharing, and also what we put out and the way that we put it out. And when it comes down to it, I think it really is just the same truth keeps coming back, that if I'm looking, it's like you're looking for a healthy balance. You know, if I'm looking out 85% of my day and night at other people's things and kind of like numbing through watching everybody's stuff go by. So first of all, I'm not even really looking in at them because it's numbing. And second of all, I'm probably really not spending enough time like seeking my own truth, you know. And I honestly think there's a lot of blessing in the way that we can relate to each other, especially the way the world has, I don't know, quote unquote, fallen apart and become so crazy in the past phase, that people have been able to stay in touch, learn together, learn new things from each other, stay connected, you know, like talk to family and friends, see each other's faces, even though we can't go out and see each other. What an amazing, miraculous blessing. It's so beyond, it's so awesome. And, you know, in a way, we need to remember, like what you're bringing up is bringing up something so important, and we really need to remember that respect level, both in looking outward and in putting out. And when we do look out, and you know, it's important what we let into our own system, and it's also important to try to help our friends. You know, if we really want to be good friends, so the content that we're putting out hopefully will actually benefit the world, help people feel, you know, strive for truth or feel comforted or go towards goodness or truth. And hopefully we can also reach out to people. Sometimes it's obvious in this type of situation. It's like a really interesting thing you're saying. It's making me think, you know, like halachically speaking, you know, is online, you know, looking at each other's profile, is that like keneged looking in each other's doors and windows? Maybe it is. It sounds to me like it is. It's like, you know, it's at least some bechina of that. So on one hand, like, don't look, but on the other hand, it's like, you know, when you see someone on the street and you say hi to them, there's that. We do interact with each other, you know, it's like it's also face to face because we are putting ourselves out there and seeing each other on social media. So there's some level of kind of keeping a finger on the pulse of our friends and family. I would say there's like an opportunity there, and sometimes it's like when you see somebody posting something, it's not necessarily about even really taking in what they posted. It's just knowing that it's time to be in touch with that person. They might need to hear a good word, and that's why I might have a reaction to what they're posting or whatever. That one example, you know. But yeah, I think it's something really to contemplate, and whether, you know, the level of education, like the highest level of education, when a parent is told this over and over again, it comes up over and over again as a parent, that the biggest lesson that you give your children is through your actions. Like you could say a lot of things, I could plan my posts, I could say this or that, the other, but in the end of the day, the way that I act, the things that I actually say, the movements that I make, that's what they're taking in. There's something really deep going on there. And so take our responsibility for ourselves, and then also when we're looking into other people's life, like taking it with a grain of salt, like why would I be seeing this? You know, maybe I'm seeing it so because it needs to spark some kind of learning or response in myself, or maybe I need to think about this person. Maybe they need to hear a good word, something like that. So yeah, just something. So it's a really interesting thing to think about. It's really important. The way the world is now, this is one of the main bases of how we're interacting now, really, And so we have to really take it seriously, what it means, and how to use it in the holiest of ways. Maybe I'll ask my Rav that question if it's like the Bechina. That's a cool question.
Oh, please.
Yeah. Bli neder, I love asking the kind of like off the track questions and see what he says. Yeah. So, all right, everyone. So we'll be. I'll try to put up a few things before the next class, which is in 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
July 20th.
So I'll try to put a couple things up in between. Feel free to share the classes and spread it out, and be well, be blessed, and look for the good and keep finding it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Blessings. Take care. Bye.